coming to you raw and unscripted. Beaming across Ontario and beyond to places like Point Pelee, Sobel Beach, Brampton, and Hamilton. This is the Real Hickson Real Estate Podcast. Whether you're listening on your commute or putting on your suit, whether it's your morning stroll or you're on patrol, you just finished prayer or dropped the kids at daycare, you're in the bar, your car, or listening with the bathroom door ajar, near or far, this is the Jess and Giroux Show. We're grateful for flattery and prone to inaccuracies. This is your guide to Toronto culture, people, events, news, but most importantly, real estate talk. Yes, hello guys. We are back yet again for another exciting episode of the Real Hickson Real Estate Podcast. Now, this week we have Mike Switzer from the Forest Real Estate Office. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you doing?
Fantastic,
Thanks
mate.
for
Very
being
excited.
here.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
And
In this fancy studio.
Yes.
that's right. If anyone's listening and they obviously can't see it unless they're seeing it online, we're in a very fancy studio downtown.
Listen,
in the
when
Docklands
you
area.
roll with
Big
me,
shot.
it's time to go to the fancy studio.
That's right.
But
that's right.
it's great. It's great
Yeah,
to
it's
have
so cool.
proper studios, right? It's good to do in our office too or from home. That's the beauty of what happened over this whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like
Exactly.
you realize you can do this from anywhere.
Yeah.
But if you have a fancy studio at your disposal,
It's a
why the
little
hell not use
nicer.
it?
Yeah.
For sure.
Exactly. Okay, so do you want to kind of introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Michael Switzer. Am I looking at the camera?
Yeah.
My name is Michael Switzer. I am a broker and managing partner at Forest Hill Real Estate. I have been licensed in real estate since 2003. I'm a Libra. I am a father of three. I have a wonderful wife and a beautiful family. And I'm a real estate guy, so it's something that is in my blood. It's the only thing I think I can do for the record. It's the only thing I do well.
It's a good thing to do well.
Yeah, it's literally the only
It's
thing
perfect.
that I can do. And
manage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, well, that's part of it.
Yeah,
That's part of
yeah.
it. We opened up Forest Hill Legacy office and started off with an office in Vaughan. We just actually crossed our 9-year mark, which is
Wow.
crazy. It's going so
Congratulations.
fast. Like all of a sudden next year is a decade.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have a huge party. You know how we like to party.
And it's
Yeah.
expanding too.
And it's
to
expanding, so
Aurora.
now we have Aurora, and before that we opened our office in Witchwood.
Mm-hmm.
We just actually announced on our Witchwood office that we're blowing it out, and because we were only on the second floor of the building that we bought there.
Yeah.
So we're blowing out the main floor, and we're redoing the whole building. It's going to be a really sick office.
Takeover.
Glass head to toe,
Wow.
from both floors, lots of offices. Amazing location,
Yeah.
obviously, at Bathurst
Yeah.
Witchwood, Bathurst and St. Clair.
Yeah.
Really love doing what we're doing and love doing stuff like this too.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you were one of the main reasons we came over to the office. Jess having a previous relationship with
Yeah.
you through the other offices that
Yeah.
you were at. And
And I don't forget people I like.
I appreciate it. Right
not
back
only
at
like, but we appreciate the way that you do real estate and the way your philosophy, just being a real person.
Yeah, that's it.
So which is huge for us because it's kind of like our brand, it's our message as well. And just moving beyond just a purely transactional agent and actually, because we're dealing with people's lives here, we're dealing with people's futures.
Their largest assets.
Yeah.
The biggest
And
asset.
I appreciate you saying that, and that's really what we were just talking, because I had a little video interview before with Cole before we started this, and it's like that's exactly what I was just saying. It's like the best part of what we are accomplishing and what we're rebuilding with our office is the people that have been coming.
Yeah.
We're basically talking about the laws of attraction.
Yeah.
And you surround yourself with the people that you want that are
Yeah.
the right people to surround yourself with, and you keep the wrong people away.
Mm-hmm.
And what we have going on, you guys are I said it. I used you guys as the example.
Oh, amazing.
I said you guys are the perfect example of attracting the right people
Yeah.
and creating the right group of agents who are. Everyone can play this role of big shot agent. It's so much better to be the agent that actually is a real human being who cares
Yeah.
about their clients and is going to take pride in what they do and
Yeah.
not disappear after. This is
Yeah.
about long-term friendships and relationships, right?
Yeah.
So
And
Yeah.
we have fun while we do it too.
Hell
and I'm
yeah.
sure
Exactly.
you do too.
yeah, oh yeah, of course,
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. So the first thing I always ask any guest is what's happening in the market this week, last couple of weeks? What do you see? Do
Yeah.
you see a little bit of a shift in the market? Right now?
Absolutely, and that's actually a good question to start with, because all you're hearing about, because obviously the media and most agents are about a month behind in their approach, but being in our position as both, top producing real estate agents and owning a brokerage or branches of a brokerage, no one has like a better feel on what's actually happening in the heartbeat of the real estate industry, because whereas most agents can just feel like what's happening with their listings, I could see like hundreds of listings and hundreds of all the agents, because there's hundreds of agents.
Yeah.
And I can tell you not even the last week, I would say like the last like probably 2 weeks, maybe like almost 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's been picking up.
Yeah.
And and I mean picking up from a very slow place, obviously.
Yes.
July was there's no question the amount of sales that went on in July are way down, but you've got to look at it what it is that you're looking at as a whole. So for us as local GTA agents, should we really be so concerned about the Canadian market? To some degree, sure, you want to have it, but really, no.
Yeah.
You should be concerned about where you
Our
work.
market.
Yeah.
And the hundreds of micro markets within just the GTA market.
Exactly.
Whereas some people, like, especially when you meet with people, they're like, oh, I heard this and heard that, and they're showing you numbers from Calgary. And I'm like, why are you showing me numbers in Calgary?
I know.
It's
and
like
people easily get caught up in these media articles. Oh my God, they love saying the bubble's going to burst.
It's a huge country.
Yeah.
You know what I
If
mean?
you talk about anywhere other than the GTA, you might be right. And actually, we are seeing that. A lot of these outside areas are really cooling off.
Yeah, but what were those outside areas? What was the reason that Bradford and even like all these little small towns from here to Barrie, why was everything crazy?
Yeah.
It was crazy because there was an exodus of people who left the city during COVID because they didn't want to touch the elevator button and they wanted to have some fresh air and not live in a 600 square foot little condo box in the sky, which is fine to live in until there's a pandemic. And until there's a pandemic that's being spread by people. So obviously the exodus was the exodus. So that was already over 2 years ago when everyone left. And the reality is that they've all been coming back, or a huge percentage have been coming back. So what's going to happen? So those little small communities is that, oh wait, you mean we're not worth 40% more than what we're not really worth that much money? No, you're not. You're only worth it for that moment.
When people wanted you.
When there was the demand. The demand isn't there as much.
And I think a lot of people convince themselves or were convinced by other people that they can work from home for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, and some people can. And
Some
that's
people
fine.
can.
But what I've noticed is that a lot of the people who because the agents too, like I had a lot of agents who were like, I'm never going to the office again, like during the middle of it. I like Zoom. I personally, I couldn't stand it. I hated Zoom. And I like being, but even for those people, I've seen so many of them, not just real estate agents, that have been like, you know what, I thought that, and like I'm going back to my office.
We need the interaction.
And you were also seeing like people who were in the commercial real estate industry were just like, oh my God, I don't know if people are going to still need to lease these places. You know what? For the most part, there was a dip, and I think that the reality is that people do need to have some sort of work environment. Now, are there certain industries that don't? Sure. And maybe they'll and there has been obviously a major adjustment to who those people are, but for the most part, I love coming into the office. I love meeting with people. And I'm just happy that we're able to.
We're in a people business as well.
This is a people business. It's a
and
contact
again,
sport.
Supply and demand. I mean, what about a lot of little businesses that were looking to lease some office space that they didn't have the opportunity before? And all of a sudden, the price had dropped, and they go back in. So it's all,
and that's right. So and that's the other thing we were just talking about before. It's like, when you talk about where's the market, you have to think about, okay, the market is the market. To be another real estate agent just going over the same stats that every agent is posting, okay, that's great. I'll show the stats on the screen when they're doing this thing, no problem. What does it mean? That's what really matters. Not just like, oh, there's been this many sales and this many this. To be able to decipher what it actually means, where is the opportunity? So anytime that you have a shift, which we're clearly in right now, there's no question that that this is bigger than real estate, like the inflation and the war and the coming out of a pandemic. All of this stuff is a big clusterfuck.
Yeah.
There's no better word than that. But at the end of the day, anyone who thinks that they can't bank on the real estate market rebounding, whether it's in a week or in a year or in 2 years, if anything, you have to look at it and say, what is the opportunity right now? So where is the opportunity? Buy real estate.
Yeah.
That's the opportunity.
Yeah. You have a chance to get in the market.
For those people who can't afford, like is this helping first-time buyers? Absolutely not. Is like the change in the rates and all that stuff and the stress test and everything. But for the many, many people who already own a home, for the many, many people who have wealth, okay, this is a great time to move up.
Yeah.
Okay, and for everyone, like think about how many years we've been hearing the same thing. How am I going to buy a house? bidding wars on every property. The prices are crazy.
Well, I love these media articles that come out in February. They were saying things are too crazy.
Yeah.
How's this going to go on? And now we're on the opposite end of it. And now they're complaining that
it's just clickbait. That's all it is.
Stuff's too cold.
Yeah, but that's the media, and that's why you have to be able to. And this is why I'm not trying to. I feel bad. Like I don't want to sound like I'm being discerning to our industry or to agents.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of agents who don't have any idea. They get their information from the same place that consumers who aren't supposed to be professional real estate agents, and then they feed into their fears, and and it's like sheep.
Yeah.
So for us as agents, what I think is most important is that we think outside of the box, and we don't allow our clients to just be like every other person, being poorly advised.
Yeah.
It's about how you're leading.
Yeah.
And it goes for us for like how we lead our agents and how we lead our clientele. And there's a reason that we do better than most brokerages.
I have one factor to talk about, and you can look at a whole host of factors, the economy and changing markets, to make up for this current market. But I was saying a lot of people are just away. They're overseas right now.
Yeah.
And what do you need to sell homes? You need the people looking online and going to see places.
Yeah, for sure.
So something as simple as like 40%, let's just say a number, 40%, 50% of Ontario was overseas in Europe or something like that.
This that's what I was saying. Like there's a lot of this stuff you have to think about why it's happening right now. Mm-hmm. So there's no question, rates, increasing rates, and then you add on. Is this? Do you hear something? Is that the sound after I'm hearing? I'm just hearing something. That's like it's making sure that I'm not the only one hearing that.
Yeah.
So the rates happening, increasing is obviously going to affect everything negatively. Inflation, media, then you add all of it on together. What does it do? It kills the confidence of the consumer.
Yeah.
What does that mean? It means that you're going to have a lot of people who have no idea what's happening.
Mm-hmm. And then they sit in the sidelines.
And then they sit on the sidelines. And then right now, when you have to look at it and say, well, what's actually happening? That was a really good point. We just came out of a 2.5 years of uncertainty and pandemic and masks and Perel and all this shit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Travel bans. And now all of a sudden, it's like the first time where it's like, wait a second. The kids are at camp.
Yeah.
Let's go to freaking Italy.
Yeah.
Let's go to Jamaica.
Yeah.
Let's go to the cottage. Wherever it is.
Anywhere
Let's go.
out of our home.
And I think that, if you look at it, we live in, you're from Australia, you come from a nice hot climate. Mm-hmm. We live in an ice tundra, okay?
Oh, yeah.
90%.
So the Sydneyites still complain about winter in Sydney, and they go north to Queensland. So it's still a thing, but
it's not
like here.
But like that's what I'm saying. So when you look at it like that, you have to take into consideration, like, I think a lot of, and I'm not saying all of it, there clearly is some issues and some uncertainties in the market. I don't want to sugarcoat it. Yeah. But I think a lot of this also is just the human element of like, what are the people doing? And that was a really good point you made. It's like, where are the people?
Yeah. Well, what did you hear in the news?
Small percentage of it.
You heard the airport getting backed up.
Oh, you see
that's where everyone
see
is.
the luggage?
Yeah.
What the hell is that?
Everyone's sitting at gates with delayed flights. That's what
it's actually making me nervous. I hope they get that together because I'm traveling soon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I'm traveling with kids. It's not the same thing. I need that luggage to be where it's supposed to be.
Yeah. The iPad charged.
Yeah, iPad's charged exactly.
So you could say that it was like a correction before, and like this is a correction again. Everything's just corrections.
Yeah, listen. If we're being frank, my take on the market is not that this was the issue isn't happening now. The issue has been happening for the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. The prices were way too high. The prices are still way too high.
Yeah.
So, it's really important to be straight and to, and I get it. Everyone has their own takes on things, but I don't see the issue just starting when the market started to slow down. Mm-hmm. The issue was starting when you couldn't buy a house for 5 years straight because there was, it started even before this previous market, where it was the previous market, before they shut it down in 2017 with the foreign buyers. And then at that time, what did all the articles say? We're talking about the media. The sky is falling. Real estate's over. The bubble's bursting. Okay.
I've been saying that since like
so hold on a second. So then COVID hits. 2019, 2020. This March 2020.
Yeah.
COVID hits. What did the article say? The sky is falling. The end of the real estate market. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. What ended up happening?
Blew up.
It was the hottest year and a half I've personally ever had in real estate over that time. The second that the first initial 3-month lockdown ended, and all of a sudden it was like, you could leave your house, and we all just go, walked outside and looked around, it's like,
and I don't want to live here anymore.
But from that moment on, it was an emotional response to being locked in your house.
Yeah.
So all those people who were looking at this up, honey, the second that we can, we need to move. I need more space.
Yeah.
I need a backyard.
Mhm.
I want to get the hell out of this neighborhood. I want to get the hell out of the city.
Because it forced them to, because we were so distracted leading up to the pandemic.
Yeah.
The pandemic forced us to literally sit down
reassess
and play cards with each other and look at the walls
And
around us.
reassess your life on a grander scheme.
And I've said all this
you
before, by the way.
renovated.
Yeah, a lot of people renovate.
Yeah.
For sure. But the reality is like it's something like that you could never foresee happening.
Yeah.
But when it happens, everybody takes themselves so seriously as if we're like these these already finalized products as human beings.
Yeah.
Like we're like a couple thousand years out of the trees.
Yeah.
Like we're primates, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we take ourselves so seriously. We take everything so seriously. And the reality is that people need to be able to just enjoy their lives. We get one life to live.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time when people come to me, they're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. It's as if like, what they're asking me when we're talking real estate, and I have to turn them down and say, hey man, like think about what we're talking about right now. Like no one's putting a gun to our heads.
Yep.
We live in a beautiful, safe country. Everything's fine. Like you want to talk about moving? Okay, so let's tone it down and think with our heads.
Where do you want to
And this is the best advice for buyers and sellers of all time. Whatever you're doing and you're dealing with real estate, you can't use this. You got to just use this.
Yeah.
Because when you use this, you lead yourself in directions that are based on wants, not on need. You know what I mean?
And I address this in a lot of episodes, especially first-time home buyers. They're anticipating their dream home.
Yeah.
And I tell them, no. The first place you're going to get, you're going to make a bunch of sacrifices.
Yeah.
And I call it stepping stone homes. And you might do 4 or 5, 6 or 7. And even when you get the mansion and you get all of this stuff, you might still not be happy.
They're still on the market, right? Like there's still $6-7 million houses on the market. There's a reason people don't stay in their homes, especially
of course.
now.
And if you look at what's actually happening, this is coming back to what I was saying before. Like the luxury sector is, and these are the people that are not going to be nearly as affected by the rates going up,
exactly,
or inflation, or the news of recession. They're rich.
Yeah.
If you're rich,
they're probably all cash off.
You're not stressing about money. That's why you're rich. So and I think that's why, like for me personally, like I focused my attention for the last couple of years before this even happened. Like I've been focusing my attention on luxury, and Forest Hill, like our company as a whole, like this is a luxury brokerage and a boutique luxury brokerage where it's not, coming back to our environment and the people that we have. Like this isn't about having 500 agents. I'd rather have 50 amazing agents than 500 agents.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And what's growing into now, it's like And happening very organically. I think that now we're just under 200 agents or something like that, which is a lot of agents. And if you look at our numbers with the agents compared to like these big store brand brokerages, we have a way higher percentage of earners, of people who are actually producers in this business, and I think that's a testament to what we're doing. It's not about just bringing in agents just because I want to have more agents. I want to bring in agents, and then I want them to see and to make money and to do well and to have success. Because at the end of the day, real estate is a hard gig, and anyone who comes in, people think that this is
and
like
there's a lot of them.
Job.
Like we could run the numbers. But how many people, like, within 2 years?
It's over 80%.
Or posting about what's happening in the market, but they haven't done anything this year.
And that's why.
This is like opening your own business.
It's
like selling, a new brand of ice cream on the corner there and then trying to get into a retail store and then going from there.
That's right.
This is
but
the same thing.
The problem, I think, when it comes to this, and maybe this is off, if you want to not go off topic, but the problem that I think with when people come into real estate that they're expecting, I mean, this is the real. We could talk about this.
This is the real. This is what.
But the problem that I think that a lot of agents have, and I've said this to a lot of people throughout training throughout the years, is that when you go to get your real estate license, you go to real estate college, or it used to be at Oria, now it's at Humber or whatever. You go through all this stuff. They don't really teach you anything about the business. So everyone who walks in with this. Okay, I know about meets and bounds and how to
it's technical,
and I know about all this like technical crap that never occurs. But did anybody teach me about making a schedule? Did anyone teach me about how to set goals and how to have a business plan?
You can ask Jess because
you have to pay taxes.
When I was going through it, like I was asking Jess a whole bunch of questions. Like I was trying to get real world answers rather than just scripted. Within the confines the curriculum.
I said memorize the books
and don't worry about it.
I'll teach you later.
That's right.
The real stuff.
Well, you also had pre-existing, like even from before you got your licenses, from being an admin for years as well.
I learned more doing that than the books taught me for sure.
Yeah, and I'm sure you learned that a lot of agents can be real assholes. But I was always nice.
That's why I remember you.
That's right.
I'm not going to use any names here, guys. You can do your own research and figure out what they're
just
about.
Google a little bit.
And that's what we don't have in our office.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that's the kind of thing. Like when we created the board, when we had this big whiteboard that we were creating, and one of the big things that we had was like no assholes.
Yeah.
Like great environment. Nice admin.
Yeah.
The only time that I've ever actually had fired someone, I choose the word fired because they don't actually work for me. Like I actually work for you.
Right.
But when there was one agent who was like extremely abusive to one of our admins, and they didn't realize I was in the office, and I could hear it from in my hearing peripheral, if that makes sense. I could hear it like on the side in the background. I'm like, is that real? Like, is someone yelling? And I poked my head out, and I just heard this agent like, and another thing, and blah, blah, blah. And I came out, and I was like, you get out, you're gone.
Wow.
And this guy was like an earner.
Yeah.
And that's why they look at me like, you don't understand. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. You don't speak. You're talking to a 20-year-old administrator who's working part-time and you're yelling at, whether it was a woman or a man, you're just yelling at a person who's working here. I'm like,
no reason.
Get out. And we kicked them out. They never came back again.
Good.
Yeah.
I know, and that wouldn't have happened at our old place of work.
No, at our old place, you would have talked to the admin. They'd be like, listen, when the agent's upset, you have to make sure that, it's like, no, that's not right. That's not right. You don't speak to people like that. You need to go.
No, for
sure.
What I
mean?
Okay, so let's kind of pull things back to the main topic.
That's your job here.
We're riffing, but it's all good.
I'm a riffer.
Yeah, we kind of touched on a lot of this stuff, but basically, the idea of this podcast today is, navigating today's market and also looking to the future. What does it look like in the future? Because, even Jess and I were talking in the car. 2010 GTA looks very different to 2014 GTA. Yeah. 2014 GTA looks extremely different to 2022. So, kind of give me a snapshot of what does the market look like? Like boomers versus millennials versus investors. What's the landscape?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously from area to area, there's going to be, I can only answer based on my world. I think that there's going to be a lot of downsizers. So I mean, our whole, obviously, like I live in Thornhill. I grew up in Thornhill. You have a lot of people, but it doesn't matter. The same thing would apply to Forest Hill. The same thing would apply to Lawrence Park. The same thing would apply to Bridle Path on a larger scale. There's a lot of people who have these big homes that are now living there, just the two of them, or even some of them are just like one person living in these monster homes. And I mentioned to you before we started this, like we just actually for the first time in forever, we purchased a condo for my mom. My mom's moving into this beautiful big penthouse in a new building that's being built.
And was she always opposed to the condo living?
Always opposed. Yeah. And she's been living in the same house that we moved there when I was 10.
Wow.
So, 10 years ago, because I'm 22.
Yeah.
No, but she's been there for a long time. You know what I mean? For 30 years.
That's all she knows, really.
33 years she's been living in that house. And it's one of those things where I think if I'm looking at the future right now, I think there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be downsizing and a lot of people who are, and that has already been happening, but I think even more so now. Yeah. And which leads to what the developers are building. And if you look at what the developers are building, they're building in areas like that where there's not, if you go up to Thornhill, for example, there's no good downsizing condos for people who want to live in a luxury building that aren't 30 years old. Yeah. You know what I mean? Where you can actually get like a big, like the place we bought from home, it's like over 2,000 square feet. It's a nice big place. She doesn't have to feel like she's downsizing into a small place.
Yeah, it's not as big of an
adjustment. It's a luxury building.
Is it a lower rise?
It's a 20-story building. Okay. It's Door. It's called Door. It's Fernbrook is building it. It's right at Center Street. Really, it's going to be a really nice building.
She can walk to Winners.
For sure. But really, it's just. What I think is going to happen is you're going to see more development that's based around the downsizing generation of our parents' generation. Whether that, like, if I think that there's going to be ups and downs along the way. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, so I always feel weird because I've had this happening with clients where clients would be like, but hold on, like, what do you think my house will be worth next year? They're like, what do you think your house is going to be worth next year?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, do you want me to bullshit you and just give you a number? Do you want me to tell you I have no idea?
Yeah.
How can I give you an answer to something I don't know?
Like, we couldn't have predicted like the January market.
No way.
No one can know. No one can tell what's going to happen in real estate, and the reality is that if you want the right answer is exactly what you were just saying. Get into real estate.
Yeah.
Whether you're a first-time buyer and you're buying yourself your first condo, the whole idea is that you need to be in. You have to own real estate.
Yeah.
And if you look throughout the years, like, you know, there's a common trend. I have thankfully I have some very, very wealthy clientele, and I'm always like the same way as you guys are. Like, I'm a questioner. I'm always like, and I'm also just a curious person. Like, I like to know, like, not like, hey, how'd you make your money, but like more like, you know, any like, you know, I probe for like tips. Like, how do you about obtaining real wealth? There's one thing to make a living, it's another thing to be properly wealthy. You know what I mean? Yeah. One of the most consistent things that I've heard throughout the years is about buying at the right time in a down market. So what's this? This is a down market.
Yeah, it's an opportunity.
So when you look at it, you have to look and say, okay, what is the opportunity? So the problem is that whenever they're just wrapped up with the media, they just get these little short vision. Like, I just see right in front of me when you just need to open up and look, and this is what our job is. Our job is to be like, no, look.
Yeah.
Open your eyes. Yeah. See the whole picture.
I actually did a recent TikTok a couple of weeks ago that I saw a snapshot of everything that was sold in the GTA, like since like the 80s. Yeah. And I pointed to where the global financial crisis happened in 2008. You can see a little blip. And all these, it's just a little blip. And the whole thing is just going upwards. Like, of course. It's always going upwards. Well, and I'm always saying, like, are there going to be more people in Toronto tomorrow than there were today? If your answer is yes. Yes, then real estate will continue to grow.
That market boom that we just had over COVID, like, that was local. Yeah. That was a local. There was no immigration. Yeah. So add on immigration into the mix. Add on, like I think what will happen is there will, if I'm going to give my prediction, not that I know anything, I'm not an economist by any means. You know, like, I barely got out of high school. Sorry. But at the end of the day, you know, my take on it and my opinion towards it is that it will always keep increasing. There is still a major housing crisis in Toronto. Yeah. So you take into consideration that yes, of course, things are going to slow down in the summertime. Things are going to slow down when the rates go up. Things are going to slow down when everyone's hearing about a recession, this looming doom and gloom recession, and maybe it will. I don't know. You don't know either. But and you know what? Who else doesn't know? Them. They don't know shit. Yeah. Okay. And I'm sorry, I'm swearing a lot on your.
That's okay. That's okay. I just have to change it to clean. To explicit on the
oh yeah, exactly. Sorry, Michael Switzer's in here today. Today's a swearing day on the reel.
He's passionate.
Yeah, he's very passionate, and he's limited in his vocabulary.
For the reference, by the way, your brother last time we did a podcast didn't swear well.
No, my brother's like, you know, he doesn't know how to talk. He doesn't know how to swear. He doesn't have the passion. It's because I'm Italian. He's not Italian. Oh, that's right. But yeah, I think that at the end of the day, you know, I would bank on real estate. Definitely coming out on top at the end. So, you know, could this be the kind of thing where it could be a much slower couple of years than what we've come accustomed to? Absolutely. Yeah. And that is the real. Yeah. Like, that is the real. We have to accept that, you know, it's not, we haven't been living in a sustainable market by any means. People could not have expected that you were going to continue to buy a property or borrow money at 1%. Like, everyone's rich.
And then make 40% every year.
And make 40% increase in year over year.
Yeah, it's not
so, like, if you're opening up a bakery and your bakery has a 10% return year over year, are you happy? Yeah. It's a damn good bakery. Yeah. So, you know, you have to look at it the same way. And that's why, even if you look at it right now, like, you know, if the rates go up to 6%, they go up to 7% even in a bad situation, like, that is drastically going to change how our market is going to look and how many people can afford to buy homes. But at the end of the day, I think that there is still a huge percentage of people who already own homes that will be able to. So when we're talking about for us as real estate and how the actual market and the amount of sales, there's still going to be people that are going to be moving. Oh, yeah. It's just, who is this affecting? Quite frankly, the people that all this stuff, whenever they make changes, are supposed to help, which is people who don't have funds, people who can't afford it, and first-time buyers. That's the people who are always at the short end. And it's the way it is. I wish it wasn't. Yeah. But, you know,
maybe they choose a different thing to purchase. Maybe they lower their expectations just to get into the market.
If they can. Yeah. And the reality is that there's always, this comes back to even as investors when you're thinking in real estate. That's why you buy investment properties. Yeah. That's why you buy a duplex and a triplex and a fourplex and a multi-res building. There's always going to be people who need to rent.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah.
But we've seen the rental market.
Look at the rental market. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So in a market like this, one thing goes here. Okay, so the prices go down on the homes, and that levels out, and then all of a sudden it's impossible to rent a place.
Yeah.
I tried to do a rental for someone the other day.
It's nuts. We're in the rental market.
I called this agent, and I was like, "Hey, man, are we joking here? Like, is this a joke?" She sent me a list of what she wanted to see. I said, "Are we joking?" She said, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Do you want me to just send you the guy's blood? Like, do you want to analyze his blood?
Yeah.
Like, I gave you like literally everything. Here's his work. Here's his Equifax. Here's all the stuff. The guy had like a 850 credit rating. He had like a really high credit rating.
Yeah.
They were like, no, we need to know, and we'd like to speak to his past references and this. And I'm like, past references from work? What, you're not hiring him. Like, you want to know what kind of graphic designer he is?
They want to come to your house.
Well, there's a lot of crazy. There's so many international students all come back to the city.
Yeah,
there's
immigration,
there's
floodgates
offer
are open.
presentations on rental.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. It's probably the hottest rental market we've ever seen.
But doesn't that should push investors to buy investment properties?
Which eventually will, right?
So we have and I think it is. I think the investment properties are still a very hot commodity. Like you can't find. And if you can out there and you know buildings, then reach out to me because I have buyers for you right now. Like I'll buy them,
Yeah.
And like that is our family business is multi-res buildings.
Yeah.
And I can tell you it is very difficult to find a proper multi-res building that and what happens when they do come up for auction, who's buying them?
Investors.
Rich people.
Yeah.
So when they're coming in and all of a sudden it's whereas it's me, I'm a schmuck, and I'm going up against this family and this family that has a conglomerated,
names.
you know what I mean, and they have a company that they merged together and they're buying up portfolios all over the city, and I'm just like, no, me and my mom are trying to buy this building, you know what I mean?
Nice.
And they're like, yeah, no, we don't care about you. You have no money. You know what I mean? So that's the reality of
and the other reality is like people that complain about the prices going up. The city doesn't belong to the locals anymore.
No.
That's the reality. It belongs to the world.
Yep.
Toronto has been put on... I'm an international immigrant.
I can tell.
I'm an international immigrant.
Like, sound like you're from local.
From what? Yeah, where would you say I'm from?
I don't know. I'm like maybe like Brampton?
Yeah, perfect.
No, yeah.
But that's the reality. And like me coming from another city in Sydney, which isn't exactly the same, but it's pretty similar in a lot of ways.
Another international city, of course.
And we saw that happening, and it already blew up. And now everyone's moving to Queensland, which is probably the equivalent, I don't know, of people moving out to Halifax or Alberta or something like that. Like,
I need to get over there at some point.
Yeah, you should.
I'd really like to check it out.
It's beautiful.
Just fly first class.
But but here's the thing: like, we are now having a conversation about high interest rates, and like, it's so tough. And yes, it's very tough to get in the market. But at least it's still a conversation about maybe getting into the market.
But I'm sure your parents have said what my parents have said. When we bought our first house, it was 17% interest.
Yeah.
We had to work 2 jobs, and we had to.
I'll take 17% on $250,000.
But it wasn't easy then either.
No,
at the end of the day.
Of course not.
Yeah.
No, and like I'm coming from a single mom raising 3 boys, working full time. And I remember being a kid in the 80s. And I remember a few different parts of like way before I was a real estate agent where I just remember there being recessions, and it's not fun. And obviously there's challenges ahead.
Yeah.
Our projected challenges ahead, but I've heard this already a few times.
Yeah.
And nothing's and they keep saying that the sky is falling, and I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying nobody really knows what the hell is going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get political on the reel, but I'm definitely not feeling so confident about the people who are making decisions, and nor have I felt that way in a really long time. And especially when it comes to the real estate sector, they always screw it up.
Yeah.
And I understand that something has to be done, and the same way something did need to be done in 2017, I just think that for example, in 2017, when they brought in the foreign buyer tax, they already had an example of it not working in Vancouver. And they still did it.
Yeah.
Why?
And it didn't change anything.
All it did was screw everything up way harder. The market actually was fixing itself. It was starting to correct itself. Yeah. And the Toronto Real Estate Board, the guys there, I forget is it Ron Mercer? I always get confused. Rick Mercer's the celebrity and Robert.
Yeah.
But this guy's brilliant. And he had like this beautiful presentation of like how the market was preparing to rebound. And the amount of listings was catching up with the sales increases and all this stuff. And it was like, it was right there. Yeah. And they were like, nope, we already printed our banner. Sorry. It's
decided.
like, but wait, don't worry about your banner. Like, think about, this is a huge industry driving factor in Toronto, and they just killed it.
Yeah.
I just get a feeling like this happened all so quickly in this city. And I think people are just taking advantage of the situation. And I think the government needs to try and rein that in. You know what I mean? Like going through the immigration process for the very least, the infrastructure that exists here. I said to Jess, I'm like, imagine if there was a tunnel that went underneath from the east of the city to the west of the city and could maybe connect another tunnel up to the north of the city, and you could go across city underneath the tunnel.
That'd be cool.
Like, I know obviously it's a lot harder here with subways, underground, but imagine if it had that. Like, that would just change everything.
Yeah.
Rather than cross-hatching your way through the many, streets in and out of the city.
Yeah.
But just things like that, I just don't think they were ready for it.
Grew very quickly.
I mean, there's no question. I don't want to get into transportation in Toronto. Like, there's definitely
just
some limitations to their planning when it comes to
Yes.
transportation. But I think that they're obviously working on it. But like there's at the end of the day, there's definitely going to be ups and downs in regards to how they could have tried to improve upon the city and improve upon the economy from a federal level. But at the end of the day, here we are, and us as advisors when it comes to real estate, I find it, for me personally, I don't like to boast or act like I know about things that I don't know about. Yeah. All that I know about is how to sell real estate.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to stay in my wheelhouse, and when whatever the market is, because I had an agent that I used to do a lot of work with in my the beginning, that was sort of like a mentor to me, and he said to me at one point, he's like look, at the end of the day, because it was coming into another low point, and I don't remember what year it was, maybe it was 2008. It probably was, because I was probably like 5 or 6 years into the business, and everything was just dead. And he said, and this guy just every day, boom, 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 sale. And I remember one day I was like, what the hell, man? Like, how come? And he looked at me and he's like, look, you see that person? You see that agent over there? You see her? I'm like, yeah. He's like, look at her. And I remember I was like, what is this? And he said, if you're a good agent, it doesn't matter what market is happening, it doesn't matter what's happening, you sell.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm getting at again with the opportunity.
Yeah.
There's always opportunity. I'm proud to say that right now I'm selling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm actually busy. And I could see it coming in, like right now, where, would I love right now to be sitting in Muskoka at the cottage? Hell yeah, but I can't be, because I have to work. And I see what's about to happen, and I see that there's going to be like a lot of action coming our way as me personally and with our brokerage. Yeah. Because if I was to show you the sales that happened over the last couple of months, where it was like really dead, and then watch the next couple of months. Like I think it's going to be busy.
There's multiple offer presentations on many properties.
For sure.
Like,
we had one last night in an area in Thornhill.
Yeah.
An area that hasn't been so hot, and it wasn't like they were listed for $9.99 holding a bidding war. It's a house that was worth $1,718, and they listed it for $1,829, and there was 3 offers last night, and they sold it. Did it sell for $400,000 over the asking price? No. That's the difference. Yeah. Okay, so what? Is there a problem with a house that's worth $1,800 selling for $1,800?
No, that's great.
That's better.
That's perfect.
That's where it might become more of an even deal for the buyers out there. And
But
that's the opportunity.
At the end of the day, like, people need to lay their heads down in a home. So if they have to move because their family's growing, or they want to be in a different school district, there's so many motivational reasons 100%. People move. So it's not just to make $500,000 in a year.
No, it's not all about just profiting, for sure.
This kind of like leads into, I've got just a few more points to chat about.
Sure.
But this kind of leads, have covered a lot of it, but what does buying and selling look like in the modern era? Like, if we talk about how rapidly things change, that's the first thing I guess we can talk about. Just Broker Bay, all the technology, signing things like online.
So I was talking to an agent a couple of nights ago who was having trouble with DocuSign. And that's fine, newer agent. I walked her through the process. And then me, I don't have a filter, as you both know, and many people who out there know me know I don't have a filter. And then I literally realized I was having like an old man ranting moment. And I started thinking, I'm like, when I was your age, I'm like, when I first started real estate, there was a book.
Yeah.
It was a real estate book. Like, and
a
like,
hot sheet,
I started real estate before MLS. And it was like literally I remember I used to, and you would have to look, and I remember it was only a couple years that I remember, like even the littlest things, like booking showings. You have to call each one of these showings individually, and then I'm some kid who lives in Thornhill selling all over Toronto, areas that I have no idea where I'm going. I used to have a book this thick of my directions. There was no Waze.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So what looks really dumb, and in those days it was more common that you would actually drive your clients around. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden they're in the back seat of my car, and I'm driving them around, and I didn't want to just have like I wanted them to look like this. So I would prepare myself like this little booklet over here filled with stuff, and I would keep it over here on my side, and I would look really fast. Okay, look at the directions, and I would just drive. And I'm giving them a tour at the same time, like as if, and this is the lower village, and like as if like I know. I'm just a guy. Like, But what I'm getting at is that to answer your question,
it changed so much.
The market and the technology for real estate agents right now is awesome, and it's going to get better. But I mean, you look at something like Broker Bay. Like Broker Bay has been a game changer.
Changing our lives.
Game changer, and
especially with signing COVID disclosures in the very least.
DocuSign. So like.
Registering offers.
I can't tell you how many times I would have to drive for an hour to get to someone who was in wherever the hell they were to get them to sign something and then drive back and fax it.
Yeah.
And then wait and see. Oh, okay, yeah, the guy made one more change. Okay, I'll just drive back again. Drive back, sign it, drive back, fax it.
Yeah.
Like doing a deal that we would do in 20 minutes of work used to be like 7 or 8 hours.
Imagine you like get an air, like you spell the name wrong, then forget it.
So, I mean, and that's why, like, I literally was, like, having, like, an old man moment with this agent. She's like, how old are you? I'm like, I'm 43. She's like, you're not, like, this isn't matching up to how... Yeah. And I said, well, look, I started really young in real estate, you know?
I started in 2015, and I didn't get DocuSign until 2017, so I've been in it since pretty much it started. Yeah. But, I have done exactly what you've done, and it's always the person who lives the furthest away that you have to
DocuSign's a game changer, but, like I mentioned, I just did a deal with my parents, with my mom.
Yeah.
And like, there's just something about your parents not getting technology that just makes me go crazy.
It makes you 14
and like she's calling me and she's like, I don't get it. I don't understand. I'm at Duff's. We're having wings and I'm trying to do it. It's not working. And I'm just like, Mom, just push the button on your fingers of the thing. Click each one and then click finalize. There's no buttons. I'm like, just for the button. And then like literally after I have like 7 nervous breakdowns, all of a sudden I see it ding. She's like, I did it. And I'm like, you know what? Great job.
Oh, it was so easy.
Yeah, it was so easy. What a great technology. I'm like, yeah, it's great technology.
You just bought a house. Congratulations.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. Muzzle time.
Muzzle time.
So yeah.
I mean, I've had a couple that were coming from even outside of Toronto and had jobs here, but they needed a place, so they didn't have an Airbnb or anything like that. And I literally walked into the unit, did a video for them that I think we live FaceTimed.
Yeah.
And then we did everything electronically. Like, they were literally able to secure a place.
Yeah.
And the bank draft came through a wire. Like, everything was...
Yeah, we didn't even
I did that
anymore.
last year with a client, and it's one thing when you're doing so. This guy bought a $4.5 million house.
Wow.
On a FaceTime
Without
call.
stepping into the house.
On a FaceTime call with me and his son. His son is one of my best friends. And I remember I walked out and I looked at them on the phone and I'm like, listen, like, we're doing this. If you don't like it, it's on Dave. And I looked at them like, it's on Dave. I don't want you to do this. I feel weird. And they were like, no, we trust you. And you want to know how nervous I was when they finally came back because they were in Florida? They came back in and I was super nervous. And they walked in the door and they were looking around and I was like,
like, do you like it?
And they're like, do you like it? I hope you like it. And they were like, and like for a second, they didn't.
Really?
And I could tell, and I was like, you know. She's like, oh, the kitchen's much smaller than I was expecting. And I was like,
Oh my
God. And then afterwards, she's like, honey, we love it. I was like, oh, you know what I mean?
That is very nerve-wracking.
But like, think about that.
Yeah.
What are if you would have said that to me when I was in my 20s, that I was going to be doing a deal with someone on FaceTime and then DocuSign, I would have been like, that's the greatest thing in the world.
You probably didn't even have a cell phone doing business.
I had a pager.
Yeah.
And I used to say, you know, I had to tell people to page me, and all my marketing said page me.
Oh yeah. That was my call on the phone. I'll page him to call
my
you.
Pager.
Yeah.
I really loved it actually. I wish I still had a pager. I guess this thing is
probably,
you know.
So except they want you faster now.
Yes, now they can see like that you're ignoring their calls.
You're alive.
Yeah.
And
I guess from like a customer side, you know, apart from the agents and their tools that they have, you know, a lot of third-party apps that are out there now, and there's a lot of information that are available to people as well, which is fantastic. It's also a bad thing.
So it's very annoying.
Because it misleads them a lot of the time.
Well, I mean, look, if I'm being blunt, like what happens a lot of the time is that people who shouldn't be advising people in terms of real estate are advising people in terms of real estate.
Yeah.
But no, look. A lot of times it's the kids. So
Yeah.
and I'm once again I'm not shy, and I've had it a few times where I've had to turn to like a son or a daughter who have one of the apps, and they're like, no, look, this house sold for this. Why would this house be worth this?
Mm-hmm.
And you almost have to call and say like, hey, just questioning like, how many times have you sold a house before in your life?
Yeah.
You ever sold a real estate? No.
Yeah.
Okay, I've sold about $5 billion worth of real estate. You know what I mean?
Listen to me.
Why am I arguing
That's
with
a
you
great
right number.
now. I wish I could say.
Well, I mean that's through the brokerage, obviously. That's not
Yeah.
my number.
Experience.
Okay, you don't have to tell.
But I will say, it's all the more reason why us as real estate agents have to be better and have to know.
Yeah.
Because
Educate.
the second that somebody can see that you don't, let alone even knowing the same amount of real estate information, that's borderline. But the second that they see that they know more, what do they need us for? So
Well, they think they know more.
but sometimes they might.
Yeah.
And like if you don't know about the sale that this kid's talking about.
Yeah, they're watching
So
a specific area.
I had this
constantly.
happen to me on a street that I do a fair amount of business on, and these people weren't my clients; they were like customers that came in, and it was my listing, and these people were buying the property, and the son comes in and hold on a second, Dad. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Look at this. That house over there sold for this, and that. Blah, blah, blah. Look at me, and I said, well, look at it again. I'm like, that house is literally 1,000 square feet smaller than that.
Yeah.
It didn't have this.
Yeah.
It didn't have a finished basement. And by the way, I sold it.
Yeah, I know exactly.
And that's when he was just like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah, I sold that house.
look
That was
at-
my
yeah.
listing. And I sold it to my own buyer.
Yeah.
And it was a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that must have felt really good.
It did, and what it actually does is it's important. Like you have to be able to establish like that people are looking for two things. They're looking for someone that they can trust, and they're looking for someone that is very competent. And it might not be in that order. It might be competent trust or trust and competent. But if you don't have those two things to display as a real estate agent, then you're shit out of luck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it used to, now that's the case where it'll be based around kids who have apps or people who have apps. But it used to just be like on an inspection, the father would come. The father would be like, oh, hold on. And
Kicking the tires.
No, kicking the tires, but also like, look at those windows. Look at this, because they think that you're trying to sell them something. And I'm like, listen, you don't know me. I get you're coming just now. But because a lot of the time, that's what you have to do. You have to show them, look, I'm not just some real estate agent trying to sell your kids a house.
Yeah.
I pointed out the windows being
Before
foggy
you
too.
did. Yeah.
I'm looking at the ceiling to make sure there's no stains, and I
Yeah.
checked out the roof, and I have their back. And
Yeah.
it's just one of those things where you just have to do it all again and show them that you're someone that they can trust.
Yeah.
Right?
The way I've heard it explained to me before, and some people might have heard this before, when real estate was being sold in the 80s, it was kind of like putting out the fine china, and the real estate agents coming over.
Yeah.
Everyone act like kids are in a line when they arrive, and it was almost like the shepherd and the sheep.
Yeah.
Well, now it's the wolves and the wolf wrangler.
That's right. Yeah. I like that.
You got to try and wrangle them in, because they can be
All over the
rabid with all
place.
this information.
For sure. Yeah.
There's
too much information out there.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
And let's call the third party website. Let's call it Home Delta.
Okay.
Just call it Home Delta.
Okay.
And
Instead of
there's
Home
a
Sigma?
price predictor on it, and the price predictor, and it's based on an algorithm. And I get it. It's feeding all the information in, which is fine. And in some cases, it's probably pretty accurate.
Yeah.
But you're forgetting the human element.
Of course.
Especially in offer presentations when someone is emotionally invested,
Or-
it's hard to
Or
look at
does
that.
Home Signa see? I don't care. I'll use the real name.
Yeah.
Does Home Signa see if there is a government housing building right next to the house
Yeah.
that you're looking at? No.
There's so many
it just looks at
factors.
the sales.
Yeah.
One of our agents, Sean Hawaii, Sean Aravelio.
Yeah.
So he I just call him Hawaii because his name is Hawaii.
Yeah.
Sean posted something last year. It was a really funny thing, and it was basically it was one of those apps, predictions of a house, and then the listing what it sold for.
Yeah.
And it literally was like. The app was like 1.590, and then it sold for like 1.3.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Great job!" I was thinking, I'm happy I'm listening to you. I would have just paid $250,000 more.
Yeah.
I mean, all that stuff. It's great. I think that the more information, the better for people.
Yeah.
I just think when it comes to the actual recognizing what it actually means,
You have to contextualize.
you have to
the information.
understand what it is that
Yeah.
you're looking
Yeah.
at. It.
It's not just stats.
A lot of people think that what we have to offer is this information, and it's not. That's just information. I'm happy that it's public information. When we
Yeah.
started, it wasn't.
No,
That
no.
was something people used to call me. What did this house sell for?
Yeah,
I'd be like,
exactly.
sure.
Yeah.
And that was great. It was another service.
Yeah, it was another
but
way
it
to
is
get
what
in
it
touch
is.
with people.
And you know what? For as many times as I've heard about the next technology that's coming in to eliminate real estate humans It's happened 20
it's been
times.
tried, and it's
not going to happen.
Yeah, a couple of years ago just failed. They tried to.
There's been a million of them. There's been a million of them.
Yeah.
And the reality is that even for those, even if you want to take it to the next step and you want to talk about like discount brokerages, like people who want to, are for sale by owners. At the end of the day, people realize that they are selling their largest assets.
Yeah.
And if they're competent enough that they can sell their largest asset and they feel that they're going to do a great job, all the power to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you look at the statistics, it does not seem to be the case of what they end up selling their homes for instead of hiring a real estate agent.
Yeah.
It's people are selling their properties for 10-15% less in order to save 5%.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Is that a smart move? No. So
which we have to educate.
But
I've heard a lot of like for sale by owners. The numbers have been dropping drastically over the last.
For sale by owners and discount agents.
Yeah.
Like we had a deal happen a couple months ago where there was like a literally like a for sale by owner type real estate agent and selling a house here, and I was selling a house here. They were identical homes, literally same street, 7 or 8 homes apart. This is when the market was hotter. Backing onto the same open field, it was apples to apples.
Yeah.
We were both on the market, $9.99 holding an offer date. Both had our offers on the same night.
Wow.
I'm telling you, identical. They sold their house for $1,190. I sold my house for $1,400.
Yep.
Wow.
It's just like, there you go.
Yeah, so you saved $20,000.
And
what does that come down to? That comes down to presentation, networking, like
negotiation, man.
Negotiation.
You know what I mean? Like if you don't take pride in your negotiation as a real estate agent, I love it. I love it, man. I love being able to turn to people and I loved showing them that because I wasn't expecting it to be that much of a delta.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, because the whole time they're like, what did they sell for? And I was like, let's check.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what I mean? Like we sold for $210,000 more than them. Like that's a lot of money.
And
in fact, they actually, the other house probably had nicer finishings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, it goes to show.
But it's, I talk about it in an algorithm of like getting as many eyes on a better produced product in the shortest amount of time as possible.
I think
and that drives the interest up. And
you're 100% right. But a lot of it, when it comes to like how you get results, like you have to be able to key in on the moment when it's happening. And there's so many times where if you don't know what you're looking for, the moment where there's the buyer there, the opportunity there, it will just go right past you. But if you know how to key in on the moment, that's when you have to like capitalize on it. I know that might not be making sense, and it comes from experience. Yeah. But like, there's a certain thing. It's like almost like fishing. Like you got to know how to feel. Okay, wait, no, there's a moment there. Like I felt something, and a lot of people might not feel it, but if you feel it, it's like, oh, I got him. And all of a sudden, you're reeling them in. You know what I mean?
It's funny you say that because I had some buyers recently, and we were already looking, and Jess and I both felt it. We felt there was just a change in the market.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I started telling them, I'm like, guys,
and that's what
the 9 properties that we had seen the week prior, they started getting offers on them. Yeah. And I'm like, guys,
it's starting to pick up.
It's starting to change. Yeah. Get in. This like beautiful market that it was before.
That you could take your time.
Take your time. And that's why, like, I think that's where the focus has to be laid out right now. Like, the focus has to be on the opportunity for buyers, but I also don't want, like, what I've seen sellers just all of a sudden feeling like, oh, their time is done. Like, it's not. And like, there's still, if there's still buyers out there, like, like we listed a property today. I can tell you, like, I listed a house today, all that I've been seeing all day. Appointment.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, okay, so what's the problem exactly here? Let's
buyers.
see what happens with this house.
Yeah.
Because there's buyers like crazy right now running around.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen, God willing, for us and for our industry, it's going to be the kind of thing we'll be like, oh, well, the blip that we thought, the sky didn't fall yet. And now all of a sudden, how are we going to find a house? Oh, the children, how are the children ever going to afford a house? And that's what it is. Just clickbait, click here, read this, do this, check out the advertising on the side. Yeah. And that's their business, and that's fine. Yeah. But if you don't know better than to let yourself, when it comes to your own real estate, be led by media and marketing, then that's your downfall. Yeah. You know what I mean?
think there's 2 kinds of people that exist today. There's the ones, this is first-time home buyers and the people that have been living in their homes since the 80s, let's say, that feed into all this doom and gloom and will let it consume them and let it rule over them, and they'll only complain. Yeah. Right? And they'll only ever look at the negative. And then there's the second person that always is looking for the opportunity.
That's it.
And these are the people I like to connect with, and I like to even take some people from the complainers that go on the article on social media and go, agents are blowing up prices. No. Yeah. Figure out how it's going to work. Like, we're getting on to the next point with the subject of time in real estate. This isn't a get-rich-quick scheme.
No.
This isn't crypto that's volatile, whatever.
No.
The market's definitely a little bit more volatile than it has been previously in the last couple of decades, but you need to always look for an opportunity.
Of course. That's right. And I have no comment. That's perfect.
And so...
Wow,
good.
Never been
nice.
said
Whoa, no comment.
So I guess
perfect?
this is my last point. So where is the market and real estate heading in the future? What's it looking like in 10, 20, 30, 40 years?
Yeah, I mean, I like I said, I would put my money on, if you look at that same chart, it's just going to keep going up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's why it's like, a lot of the clientele that I've had over the last year or so have been people, and once again, I will say, like, I don't want to dumb down the idea that it's something that everyone can do, because a lot of these people are wealthy people.
Yeah.
But a lot of them have been purchasing either homes or investment properties for their kids.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's the kind of thing where it's going to be like, I could rent out this house, and when my kid who's 10 is 20, this will be his house, and he can move in and he can sell it, he can do whatever he wants with it, because the reality is that $2 or $3 million house in 10 years is going to be $4 million.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reality.
Yeah.
And I don't see that changing, once again, coming back to the housing crisis and the fact that Toronto, much like Vancouver, has something that a lot of these other world-class cities don't have, and it is completely based on the setup of how the city is. So you have the Oak Ridges Moraine to the north, and you have a lake to the south. And between those two areas in the centralized GTA, if you want to be in that area, there's nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
It stops here, and there's water here, and east to west has their draws and their positivities. But if you want to be in the central core of the city, even up to the burbs, you literally have to be in this one little breakdown of an area. There's no more land. There's nowhere else to buy.
It's funny because coming from the Sydney market, it was weird to me that people were actually living right in the city, the central core. In Sydney, no one lives right in the city. I think technically the CBD is maybe smaller, and that turns into suburbs a bit quicker. But it was strange for me that the 1 hour commute was very normal to me in Sydney. Living in all different directions. There's actually the five fingers of Sydney extending from the harbour, because again, it's water.
You can't go anywhere.
And in amongst all that, there's all rivers, lakes, and national parks.
Sharks too.
And there's sharks.
Here, at least if you follow the water, you can swim out.
That's right.
You might see
maybe there's less buyers because there's more sharks.
It's probably the sharks.
But I mean, similarly here, at least the GTA, like talking north, there is some developable land. It's the saving grace, but again...
But how much does it cost?
But the GTA is capped.
That's the problem.
The GTA is capped, and again, there's no more land. Going back to my original point, there's more people coming tomorrow than there were today. Toronto's a fantastic city to live in, and I think a lot, coming from me being an outsider, even little things like Drake or the Raptors winning a championship, or a whole host of things, the multiculturalism,
the diversity, the inclusivity, the business prowess, the cuisine, the entertainment. I love the city. And I'm telling you,
a lot of people are recognizing that.
And all the people are recognizing it. And even the downside of it, like, I know people are like, "What, are you crazy?" Like, I love the winter. I'm a Canadian kid. Like, I don't mind it. Like, I get it. Like, I'd like it to end. I like it to end a little sooner every year. But there's something to me that's special about like the changing of the seasons and feeling.
To be honest, coming from a country where we don't really have seasons like that, I kind of enjoy having 4 seasons.
Yeah, it's great.
But you're right. The only criticism is too long.
On the real estate tip of it, though, I will say, like, I remember somebody saying that to me like a decade ago that because of the situation, like, you're going to see like an area like Barrie is going to be a suburb of the GTA. And if you look now, it's not that far-fetched that Barrie, because if you look straight up, like, what's one of the hottest sections coming right now? It's like Innisfil is really hot. Even leading up to it, like, you can, from the second you lead up, like, go try to buy a house right now in Aurora and King City and get a deal. It's not happening. They're expensive pockets. Like, to buy a luxury home in King City rivals buying a luxury home in Forest Hill. Right? Like, it used to be the opposite. It used to be like, well, you can go and live up there in King City. You get yourself this mansion on this huge parcel of land. It's like, no, that house is now $11 million.
It's just as desirable.
And it is, and it's beautiful. And as it keeps on going up, like all these little communities leading all the way to Barrie, it is all becoming one.
If the GO train can get there, I think it's GTA.
And that's what's going to happen. People's mentality is going to change. People are going to be used to, like Young at Eglinton was uptown, now it's midtown.
Of course,
And North York is uptown.
Yeah.
Vaughan is really uptown.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think what should
like
it be
Thornhill.
well, I used to say this to people too, like people when they go like, yeah, where do you live? I live in North Toronto at like Wilson. I'm like, have you ever been up to Steeles? Because that's North Toronto. Like that's technically where Toronto ends is on Steeles. Why is Wilson uptown or why is York Mills uptown? Or
no.
It's like no.
No, that's
come
Toronto.
Up to Steeles, man.
When you grew up where we grew up.
Not much going on there, but there's
well, that's what I said to Jess. Like an outsider's perspective of Maple, for example. Maple's a beautiful little town.
Oh, for sure.
Has some old stuff.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of suburbs to choose from. But I was like, and this place is undervalued.
I love Maple.
I look at it, I'm like, it's only half an hour drive in good traffic.
Yeah.
Okay, an hour in bad traffic.
Yeah.
And it's 30. I took the GO the first time to Union. I thought we were at Downsview and we were already in the city. And I was like,
it's the same thing whatever suburb you live in. It's going to be 20 to half an hour with no traffic and an hour and the rest of your life if there's traffic. Yeah. You know what I mean? But that's living in a big city.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's the choice
it is what it is.
Yeah.
So,
But all the changes are coming. I mean, that's, at least where we are, the train, which is crazy to me, the train's going to be running both ways at all times.
Hopefully it'll make a big difference to the traffic issues because it is a real pain.
Yeah.
That's one of the downsides of this
It's good to hear it's on all doom and gloom. Like we're going to have some problems, but in the long run.
Look, like I said again, I have like if you ever come to me, I never like to be like someone who sugarcoats the world, but until I see real issues in my life, and that doesn't mean a down real estate market. Like I look at the big picture of life. It's like we're all healthy. We have, you know what I mean? Like I come from a background of people who went through real atrocities. Like, and that's what my uncle used to say to me all this stuff. Like, whenever I'd be stressing, I don't know if we're gonna make this deal happen. And he'd be like, hey man, is someone holding you up against the wall right now and shooting you? I'd be like, no. I'm like, so why don't you just relax? I'm like, okay. Yeah. And I think that's great advice. Attitude, it's like you have to be, very in tune with what is really happening because it's so easy to get stressed, especially in real estate. Because the people that you're working with are super stressed a lot of the time. So our role has to be to deflate that energy. It has to be to no. And I find that for me, I do have a very positive outlook on life, and I always see the funny side of things. And I would rather enjoy. And when it's time to battle, okay, when we're in negotiation, we're battle. That's fine. But that doesn't mean that the process, like I've had a lot of the times where I've worked with people and afterwards, one of them will turn to me and be like, you know what, like, I just had so much fun. Like, and I would see that a lot of the time.
I tell Jess, I love the negotiating.
I would see a lot of the time that people would say that to me, and like they're, we do testimonials, and a lot of the theme was like, I had a great time selling my house with you. Like, you were a fun real estate agent. And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm fun. It's like I wasn't having fun. I was just working. You know what I mean?
You didn't see me on the other side of the phone. I was.
You didn't see me like stressing out.
Sweat like pouring.
And my wife like, when are you coming home? You know what I mean? The kids are driving me crazy.
Making you money.
At least we're both in it, so we understand each other.
Yes, exactly.
Cool. I think like we're kind of running out of time here, but I just wanted to say thanks.
It's my pleasure. Great on schedule though. Well done.
But just thinking about the future and buy real estate, or stop complaining and look for opportunities.
And that's it.
And trust in the process.
Positive, man. Stay positive
in the process.
And call us at Forest Hill.
Exactly.
That's right. Before we go there, like I was doing events at the start of this podcast and I stopped because of the pandemic. But events are back, Mikey.
Yes.
Okay, so we got this week coming up, August 3rd, which is tomorrow. We've got a late night stage fright, which is local comedy showcase. That's happening down at Nothing Fancy Kensington Market. August 5th to 6th, we have Taste of Vietnam Festival. You like Vietnamese food?
I do, actually, yeah.
I love Vietnamese food. They have live performances, music, a cultural fashion show, and Vietnamese food down at Nathan Phillips Square.
All right.
We could go on a little date.
I'll meet you there.
August 5th to 7th. Oh, this is right up your alley. Jerk Fest.
Oh, because I'm a jerk?
Because you're a jerk. 3-day international event celebrating jerk cuisine, music, and family entertainment at Centennial Park.
That is up my alley, though. I love jerk.
Oh, yeah.
On
being
August 6th.
Eating jerk.
Yeah. Exactly.
Guys, I'm trying to do the events.
Sorry. We're talking
so
about
serious.
Yeah.
August 6th, Humber Bay Shores Waterfront Festival.
Ooh,
that would be
hopefully
nice.
The sun is out.
A day full of live music, food trucks, a farmer's market, and a beer garden. It's happening down at 225 Humber Bay Park, West Parking Lot. And the last one, Aloha Festival.
Oh, nice.
Maybe you can go down with Hawaii.
I could, yeah.
Back after 2 years celebrating the Polynesian community. A day full of Hawaiian treats, cultural music, and dance performances, and unique finds from local vendors. That's happening at Mel Lastman Square, which is just on Young Street up in North York.
The real North York.
Yeah. The real north of the city. Yeah. Well, thank you guys for having me. I've had a lot of fun.
Coming. Yeah, that's great.
And I think that was great.
We went on little tangents in different directions.
Well,
but
anytime you're going to hang with me, we're not going in the same direction. I'm all over the place, man.
Yeah. Actually, you kept Jero on schedule. Usually he's the one that's
Jero,
like, what?
Stay on schedule, man.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay,
all right, guys.
Well,
thanks again. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to email hicksonrealestateteam@gmail.com. Hit us up on Instagram.
Hit them up.
And all the socials. And Mike, you're on Instagram as well. Mike Switzer Homes.
Michael Switzer Homes.
Yeah, big up, Michael Switzer Homes.
Big up.
All right, we'll see you again next time.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
You.
Thank you. Appreciate it.